Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Viive Values. I'm just going to go ahead and get our guest on with us and we will get started. I hope that everyone is keeping warm. I don't know where you are in the world, but here, and it has been exciting to see all that beautiful white snow on the ground. All right, let's see. We're just waiting on Peg to join us here. Here we go. Yay, you did it. Hi, Peg.
It worked. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, everybody, this is Peg Bocci, and I'm so excited that you're with us today for our fourth episode of Viive Values. So let me tell everyone a little bit about Peg. So Peg is actually one of our trusted partners here at Viive Planning, and she is the founder and CEO of Silver Lining Senior Advisors. She's worked in the senior living industry for over 20 years now, and she has a vast knowledge of the aging population and their very diverse needs. Now, she recently expanded her company, this is exciting, and is now the principal of Move Seniors Lovingly for the Toronto, North York, and Scarborough areas. She's also, I remember this from the last time we talked, a self-proclaimed soccer mom and a chocolate fanatic. So you're after my heart here. Welcome, Peg.
Thank you. I can't believe you remembered that. That's so funny.
Oh, when I'm
Thank you.
with someone who's obsessed with chocolate, it's just, there's a symbiotic relationship going on there.
Thanks for having
Awesome.
me.
Oh, of course. Very excited. You know, it's definitely a hot topic, senior living and aging planning. It's something that's coming up a lot. I've been talking about it a lot in the media as well, because we've got this really awesome generation of baby boomers who are just healthy and wealthy and just living their best lives. And a lot of them aren't really thinking about what's next because they're just so happy to be in their 60s and some in their 70s and just feeling so wonderful. And a lot of people, I think, because they feel so good, are just living in denial a little too much and not really thinking about what's next. So we thought we'd bring you on to really chat about how people can be planning for those really active aging
Great.
years. So let's dive in here. So for you in the industry you're working in, very specifically with the aging population, what are some of the most common gaps that you notice between how people plan for their retirement and the actual realities of retirement living?
I think what's most important is underestimating the cost, the expenses involved. If you're either considering staying in your own home to age safely, or if you decide to move into a retirement home, I think it goes hand in hand with the neglecting the thought of inflation of everything these days. So the cost to go grocery shopping, the cost to buy a home, the cost to buy anything, it still applies to staying in your home and completing modifications to get done. Or if you do consider to go to a retirement home, there are annual increases that happen, as well as just the normal inflation cost of food and staffing and so forth. So definitely the expenses is a huge component that a lot of people may not consider for those reasons. Longevity risks and life expectancy. Gosh, the days are gone where we only used to live until in our 70s. Now we're living into our late 80s, sometimes 90s. So a lot of people sometimes are potentially outliving their resources. And so being able to plan accordingly, meet with a financial planner, advisor to kind of guide them on how to start saving right away, how to be prepared for retirement and retirement living. The other component with that is geographic preferences. Keep in mind the cost to live in Toronto is much different than Northern Ontario, let's say. So when folks are considering in downsizing and either going to a smaller home or just moving, to consider moving outside of unfortunately, your comfort zone, because you may have to go somewhere where it is a little bit more affordable, especially in retirement living. The cost in some residences can be a little bit lower if you move outside of your geographic preference. So I would say those are the common gaps to consider when you're considering, right after retirement as well as retirement living.
You know, something that's interesting is with the silent generation, so the people that are in their 90s now, they're kind of the first example of assuming that they'd retire anywhere between 55 and 65 and like live maybe another 10 years.
Exactly.
And they just thought, okay, well, I'm just gonna go spend all my money and
Yeah,
enjoy my retirement because I'm not gonna live that long. And now we've got so many of them into their 90s and even beyond. And that's wonderful, obviously, but it's also not something that anybody planned to have happen.
exactly. No, that is the truth. And that's what's happening. I mean, a lot of the clients that I'm working with now are contacting me at the age of 90 to start their plan to go into a retirement residence. So that number has definitely gotten a lot higher over the years. So, yep, I'm seeing that happen all the time.
Yeah, wow. Now, I know for a lot of people, retirement, although it's something that we've glorified and we are so looking forward to, it's a huge shock to our system not to have this very regular schedule. Even if it's a schedule that we begrudgingly went through every day, that regularity is something I think that we as human beings crave. We see this in kids, right? Keep them on a schedule and everything will hopefully be okay, right? But I think that's something that even as
Yep,
adults, a vast majority of us do crave. And so when all of a sudden that's done, you have no reason to get up at 6 in the morning, besides your internal clock telling you to do so.
exactly.
I mean, that can be a very hard thing on people just from a health perspective. So, what do you suggest when you're meeting with someone who's maybe about to stop working or is doing that wind down where they're part time or whatever, and they're really kind of feeling a little stressed about how they're going to fill their time and best enjoy their retirement years?
Yeah. Now that's a great question because I want to compare it to folks that are also considering retirement living because it definitely takes effort to get out there and to be part of something or to keep yourself busy. And before you weren't able to because you're busy, raising a family, you're working, managing a household. So you don't have time for those extra activities, those hobbies that we used to enjoy when we didn't have those responsibilities. So, what I even say to my senior clients is, getting back into those hobbies that you used to enjoy that you haven't done in years, or maybe pick up a new hobby that you've seen recently that you've maybe are interested in doing. I was thinking about this pickleball. Pickleball seems to be the new
Oh,
trending, sport that a lot of older adults are getting into, just as much as younger adults as well. But it's one of those very popular sports that's kind of taking off. So even being active, and if it's in regards to into sports or some type of physical activity. And again, this is an opportunity where you can meet other people, in your social circles that you can continue to grow. Um, Education, online learning. There's so much out there that you maybe never had the time to do, and you have now. If you want to learn about how to crochet, or if you want to pick up another hobby, you can either go in class to do that, or you can even do online learning. Thankfully, one of the benefits of COVID is that we now have easy access to do these things online. So that's another huge component. Volunteering. I push volunteering, especially for older adults, because there is such a need for that extra support and companionship for many people, especially in healthcare environments as well as senior living residences. So, being able to put in your time, if you enjoy simple conversation, or and a great example is there's a gentleman who lives in my neighborhood who's retired, and smart gentleman. He was a teacher for many years, and he actually goes into my kids' school and teach coding classes once a week. I mean, like he gives back his time
mm,
and his knowledge to his local community. So again, if you have any special skills or any background that you want to share is important. Even going back to work part-time
yeah.
consulting. I mean, it's definitely not a bad option. I think about it all the time with my parents who've worked in the same jobs for 40, 50 years, and that's 40, 50 years of knowledge and expertise that's gone. So
Mm,
maybe, again, going back to actually working and getting paid for it is not a
yeah.
bad thing. And then always wellness and relaxation. Go
Yeah.
on a vacation, take the time for yourself. You never had the time before, or learn how to meditate and properly to really take care of yourself. So I would say those are some of the top things that would be important when you after you retire that you should consider.
Definitely.
So
I mean, and there's a lot going on now. I found it. There's a really great organization out of Toronto called What's Next 50. And it's this idea that, okay, we're retiring, like we're at that age where, or we've been asked to leave our job because they want to get the higher paid people out, as seems to happen, right? And they're getting those pensions and moving on. But then it's like, I'm 60 and have so much knowledge, so much energy. What am I supposed to do for the next possibly 40 years of my life, right? This idea
Exactly.
that, yeah, there are ways that you can get back out there into the world and be
Yeah.
working. It might not be exactly what before. And I think from a financial perspective, given that in particular the boomer generation didn't plan to live as long, you know, for Gen X and millennials, we're not going to have as much of an excuse. We're
Yeah.
going to need to really be thinking about that. But for the boomers who just didn't know they needed to save more money than they
Yeah.
have, this is a great opportunity for them to work part-time, but also continue to enjoy their lives and take those
Yeah.
trips and whatnot. And so I think that's a
Yeah.
great recommendation.
Great.
I'm going to jump in our list of questions because it kind of ties in, because something that um, that's definitely becoming quite prevalent is the impact of loneliness on seniors. And I should have looked up the quote before we started today, but I do have a really great quote with a statistic, and I'm going to probably mash it up right now, but maybe I'll put it in the comments later for everyone, is the fact that loneliness is worse for your health than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day or eating junk food every day.
Oh, wow.
Loneliness.
Wow.
So they now have actual data, and I promise I'll link the study here, and they'll do a better job of explaining it. But they have actual data that shows that loneliness in the elder population is killing them faster than smoking and junk food. Like,
Wow.
that's just
That's
so
incredible.
shocking. And so for people who are seeing the same people every day at work, even if they're just, you know, work friends and they're not like bleeding into your like personal or social life, there's still this camaraderie, this human interaction piece that you lose. And I mean, you listed a lot of things about ways to sort of get back out there and do other things once you retire. But for some people where they're just shocked into it, where they just have a small, tight knit group of friends, I mean, they need to start thinking about building out their social circle. And do you have any suggestions on how they can do that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think in addition to what you mentioned too, I mean, obviously COVID, again, I always refer back to COVID. I feel like it just was very impactful,
Yeah.
and how that has increased loneliness even more because we had to learn how to isolate. And many of us, you know, have families and people we live with, and a lot of folks don't. So they were, you know, had to kind of revert back to, you know, just, you know, they're up by themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
again, social connection, social circles, you know, being able to sorry, my cat.
Okay.
Being able to you know, just again, it's an effort to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
stay in touch, but you know, again, going back to what you used to enjoy doing, and if it's even going to church, the sense of community you have in your church, and going back to those kind of outlets, you know. And there's also a lot of resources available virtually and on the phone, where there's actually nonprofits now that if you are alone and you just want a voice to talk to, there's companies now that will call you and just have a conversation every week, especially if the person doesn't want to go outside, and especially because COVID is still here and
Yeah.
still people are very nervous about getting sick again. So, so if you have to stay at home, there are ways of speaking over the phone, or if you have access to the internet, talking to people,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But again, you know, getting back involved, you know, as much as possible. Again, you have to kind of force yourself to, and have a support system around you that will encourage you to go out and do these things. But you can also be hesitant about reaching out for support, especially with mental health. And again, there's lots of organizations that are there to take care of you and support you if there is any concerns.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite, as I just mentioned, is pet companionship. You know, pets are great. You know, they provide comfort to many, especially if you are alone and you're still able to take care of either a cat or a dog. You know, it's definitely worthy of considering, even if it's just to foster
Mm-hmm.
a pet. Um, you know, and just staying active. Again, it's just going out for walks in your neighborhood. You know, you may run into another fellow neighbor that you can potentially go on a walking group with. I see these two ladies all the time walk in my neighborhood that this meet up at a spot every morning and they go for a walk. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of opportunities, but you also need to have that in
Mm-hmm.
you to go out and make the effort, because it is effort ultimately. But there's definitely, in addition to all of the social aspects like workshops and being active and joining groups and things, but I think just being aware that there are resources
Exactly.
available.
Yeah. So let's move now to retirement living if we can. So I feel like every person that I ask says, "Oh, I'm going to
Yeah,
age in place," which means for those watching, living in your home. As my grandma used to say, she's going out feet
yep,
first. And I think that's great that people want to do that. And I always say when I'm working with clients, at the end of the day, I don't care what you choose to do,
yeah,
but let's make sure that we can tick all the boxes that fall under your choice,
yeah,
right? Like, do you have the social
yeah,
support, the family support? Do you have
yeah,
the money? All these different things.
yeah.
So, for people who want to stay in their home, at the very least, as long as humanly possible, what do they need to do to really make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially the clients that I work with, a lot of clients do call me because they are going through the life transition of their aging parent for the first time. And I do get that question often where, yeah, mom's staying at home, feet first, she's going to die in this
Yeah.
house. What can we do? And ultimately, number one is, making sure your home is safe to live in, making any necessary modifications to your home so you can age safely. I definitely recommend having an occupational therapist come and do a safety assessment to assess your home to determine if you do need any support grab bars, installed into your washroom, or maybe a stair lift if your washroom and bedrooms are on your second floor, or maybe putting in additional railings, maybe changing out some of your, carpets and so forth if there's tripping hazards, little things like that. But home modifications is definitely important. Of course, what comes with that is cost. So you definitely have to look at the options if it's financially worth it and you're at a place in your life where you could stay in your home for as long as possible. But also definitely recommend hiring a professional to come in to do an assessment to make any recommendations that would be needed. Um, the next part is I laugh because I'm working with a 90-year-old client who doesn't have, a cell phone or an email, but we talk about technology and and smart, home maintenance. So how now what's kind of taken over technology, and it's going to be the way how we, manage a lot of things in life. So being able to potentially get your home hooked up on smart devices, from your thermostats to your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. There's even smart medication that you can actually have a system that reminds you to take your medication, or your Alexa or Google, that can be programmed to help you do any tasks in your home, really. Um, and then also too is a medical alert system. You can also have a medical alert system either through like a pendant, an emergency pendant, or through your Google or Alexa, where you can call for help if something does happen. So technology and the smart home kind of component is really kind of taking over. So it's important to even at least consider that option. Regular home maintenance, I think, is most important too. I mean, if you have a 30-year-old water heater and it's potentially probably needs a replacement, or maybe a new roof, maybe you've been hesitant of replacing your roof. So, home maintenance is important. So you can also keep your house in working order that is still safe for you to reside in. Transportation. We're very fortunate to live in a great city that has an amazing transportation system. So to know that you have transportation options available to you. And there's also, in addition to that, options that serve specifically seniors or older adults. So there's organizations that specifically help seniors drive them to and from appointments. So if you do feel a bit unsafe to drive, or if you're not able to drive anymore, at least to know that you have transportation options. Your support system, your family, your friends, don't feel bad if you have to ask them for help. I mean, even if it's to pick up some groceries or to pick up your medications, or maybe to come in and check in on you regularly. I mean, having an extra set of eyes and ears on you is a good thing, especially if an emergency does happen. Advanced directives, living wills. So important, because if you are alone, or if you haven't shared your wishes with your loved one, and I know, Mallory, you have these conversations all the time, people need to know what your plans are. So having something documented in writing is very important. Again, it just kind of goes hand in hand with staying in your home for as long as possible, safely. And then just being informed informed. There's a lot of resources available. I'm surprised every day I learn. There's an app coming out where you can book a caregiver companion like Uber. Like you can kind of pick,
Yep.
a PSW to come
Yeah.
out and provide based on their ratings and rankings. So again, it's just there's so many amazing resources that are out there, that you just have to stay informed, either if it's to be part of, community groups or social media or whatever it may be. That is unfortunately the only way we find out about things, but there is a lot of resources available if you do take the time to consider it.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm with clients, and let's be honest, the vast majority are resistant to retirement homes and long-term care homes, which we're going to get into next, that I say, look, like both situations require organization. Both are going to require work and effort. But what is kind of great once you get into a home-based system, right? Retirement home, long-term care home, is that things are all being taken care of for you. So if you're going to stay at home, this cannot just be I'm taking care of everything myself effort. It's not going to happen that way. Maybe it's happening that way when you're 60, but it's not happening that way when you're 75, 80, older, like depending on how your health and aging process progresses. You are going to need to have a whole team of people,
Yep.
right? A whole circle of support around you. And that means taking on tasks. That means organizing PSW care, dealing with maintenance, all the things that you mentioned are going to have to be thought about,
Yep.
and someone's going to have to be in charge of making sure that they happen. So although I think it's great when people have the resources and the family support to age in place and go out feet first like my grandma wanted to, it's really, really important to know that it's going to take a lot of effort, not just on your part, but everyone's part around you.
Yep.
And that's not to say that going into a retirement home or long-term care home is just easy peasy. It's not. But once you're there, there's so many organizational systems in place to
Yep.
be able to support that process. So on that note, if someone's not able to stay in their home, or if they're just, being all taboo and deciding that they actually want to move out of their home and move into a retirement home or long-term care home, what sort of options are out there for people? Because I think that a lot, and quite understandably, and I do not diminish this in any way, but I think a lot of people are associating any type of structured home living outside of their home as being as awful as it was in long-term care homes during
Mm-hmm.
COVID. And it was awful. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not
Oh,
taking away from
yeah.
that. But even completely independent retirement home living, people are very shut off from it because I think they see it as the beginning of the end. So how do
Yep.
you combat that? And how do you support people to think positively about these large home living situations?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, part of what I do is when I meet with clients, I talk to them, okay, what had happened or what's the reason you had reached out to me? In many instances, it's because something had happened. A crisis had occurred. There might have been a fall, a hospital stay. And that's when I get the call to see what my options are. I definitely always encourage retirement living as an option, but it's not sometimes always a fit for everybody for many reasons. So we do talk about their current home environment, if they are safe to live in their home, and if so, what else can we put into place so they can remain safely. But if they can't stay in their home and they need to consider what their options are, I mean, it's just amazing just to know that we do have a lot of resources available. So I always tell my clients when they are considering retirement living, to try to do it sooner rather than later, because when the majority of the time when people do consider it, it's a little bit too late in their in the aging process, where they may not be able to enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
benefits as much, and they see it as more of just as a long-term care home. So, but with that said, retirement living is built to make your life convenient, make it easy for you, so you don't have to worry about the day-to-day responsibilities of cooking and cleaning and errands, running to get groceries, things like that. And also too is, if it's hard, if you don't drive, especially, that could be even more of a challenge. So it then prevents you from also, in addition to those tasks, taking part in, social activities on the outside, because you are missing a component of that because there's not a way for you to get there. So, I definitely consider a good way for somebody to consider retirement living is even to ease your way into it, even to go in for a short stay, a respite stay, call it a little vacation or winter stay, go in for a few weeks, try it out, see if you like it. There's no commitment to stay. Especially if there is hesitation, I always mention a respite stay. I always do. And respite used to be used for folks that needed a break, like a
Mhm.
caregiver break, or if somebody had surgery and they can't go home right away. But it has now evolved into a try before you buy
Mhm.
it kind of thing. So kind of
Yes.
go in, try it and see if it works for you. If not, there's day programs available for
Mhm.
seniors. A lot of hospitals and off-site centers now offer day programs where you can kind of go in, and have access to a nurse. You can have access to meals, programming, but then still go home at the end of the
Mhm.
day. So just so you know that there are some options. And again, retirement living is not for everybody, so it's always a good thing to give it a shot, or even to go in and just go for a visit, go for lunch, just go check it out, because there is still a stigma, unfortunately, with this industry. And so, the sooner you consider it and to see what your options
Mhm.
are, the more better of an opportunity you have to really truly enjoy that environment because of everything that it has to offer.
Mhm.
But to keep in mind, you don't lose your independence. You're not turning over anything. You are living there. You have your own private accommodation. You have your own key. The services are there and available to you if you need them. So
Mhm.
I do kind of cover the whole gamut when it comes to options, because I know one option may not be the best for another client.
Mhm.
So it's best to know that there is a lot of options available. And if you have any questions, obviously that's what I do. I'm here to help people and educate them so they know what's available to them.
Exactly. Exactly. I think it's great that people like you in this particular industry are out there because I think that unfortunately we get a lot of our information from social media, from the news. We're not actually going into homes. We don't know what they're
Yep.
like. I remember years ago, this very luxurious independent retirement place was built in Toronto, and I knew someone who was on the staff that helped build it. And I am a singer for people that don't know, so I went in and was singing there, and I remember they gave me a tour and I was like, can I move in now? I'm
Yeah.
dead. And I get that this was a luxurious one, but still, I was like, I'm 25 and I am down to live here right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
This is really awesome. And I think, you know, for me, I mean, and I think again, it's because I am educated on this topic. I do know what it's like. Of course, there are great places to live and there are places that aren't great to live. Of course, that's inevitable that that's going to happen. But there, I always say to people, they're not building that one down the street just for fun.
Yeah.
They're
Exactly.
building it because even though 100% of people are saying they want to age in place, that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it's just not. We can have our wants, but we cannot predict what our future aging process will be like, no matter how strict and stringent we are about trying to age gracefully and well. We cannot predict what's going to happen. So, inevitably, a large majority of us will end up in homes like this. So, we might as
Yep.
well learn about them, maybe get excited about them, have them in our back pocket in case we need to
Yeah.
go down that path, but then, still stay focused on the goal of what we want at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And there's new ones being built all the time, and they've also changed kind of the look and the feel to accommodate the younger senior.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there is options available. There's and I love to see what is happening because there's a lot of changes coming in the industry. So
Yes, for sure. Well, this was really great, Peg, and I appreciate you taking
thank
time out
you.
of your day. Everyone, this is Peg Bocci. I'm going to tag her so that you can find her. If you ever have any questions for her at all, please reach out to us or to Peg directly. And this was wonderful. Thank you for
Good, thank
taking time
you.
out of your
Yes,
day.
thank you so
And
much.
of course, all right. Bye, everyone.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
Bye. Take care. Thanks.